On the Real Better Life podcast, we dig into the stories, failures, triumphs, and real-life adventures that shape and inform our tribe of real estate advisors in the pursuit of their better lives and those of their clients. It's real, raw, and unashamedly honest. Join Dave Ness, founder and chief troublemaker at Thrive Real Estate Group, for the stories worth telling.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. Today's April 1st, 2023, and Saturday morning, beautiful Saturday morning here in Denver. And Rob Alkema and myself, Dave Ness, are here just to kind of riff a little bit on ways of building business, particularly around the idea of working your sphere versus working with leads, which we're going to actually refer to as working with strangers. So this podcast is going to be focused on the idea of what are the challenges, what are the benefits, which one's better? Is it working with people that you already know in your sphere and that know you, or is it better to work with people that are complete strangers? And in our industry, of course, those are referred to as leads, whether those leads come from Realtor.com or Zillow or FastExpert or pay-per-click. All of those, I think, we would all agree, are in the bucket of leads. But we're going to refer to those as strangers because that's really what they are. They're people that you don't know. And the age-old wisdom of saying, well, there's two groups in your life. One is the people that you've met and the people that you have not met. And although that might be oversimplified, it is true. There's people that you've met and there's people that you haven't met. So in our vernacular and language today, we're going to talk about strangers versus sphere and how we hold those.
Love it. Hey, so what's your goal by the time we're done today?
Yeah, I think the goal is to share some thoughts about the challenges and the benefits of both. Mm-hmm. And have the listeners walk away with a well-rounded view of what those challenges and what those benefits are of working both sides of the equation, sphere and strangers.
Yep.
If our listeners are more equipped and more clear on how how to think about those, how to think about which one's better, which one's more effective, which one is am I more attracted to, and even thinking through like who I am as a person, which one is going to be a better fit for me. Yeah. So if our listeners have that, I think that'll be success.
Yeah. And just for a little context, if you go back to the phase of your career where you were still building your database and you were still in that production mode, how did you start off building your business initially?
Yeah, it's interesting. Zillow did not exist.
That's so crazy.
When I started building my business, neither did Realtor.com, neither did, pay-per-click wasn't really that big of a thing. The current...
Were you still rocking the pager?
Exactly. Proudly rocking the pager on my hip because I wanted to look important.
Did you have one of those MLS flip books with the pictures taped in?
I got in real estate right after that, actually. It was crazy, yeah. Funny side story. IDX didn't exist.
Okay.
Right. So there was no online database where you could go and view all the homes, so to speak.
Yeah.
Just didn't exist. You could go to, one brokerage's website and they would have all their listings, but you would not see anybody else's listings.
Wow.
So I guess that dates me a little bit. But yeah, so in the beginning of my real estate career was largely predicated on sphere. 100%. Yeah. So I just had the knack for listings in a way. I listed my neighbor's house. I did a good job at promoting that and holding open houses. And then my neighbor across the street about a year later sold. And it was a slow ramp up, no doubt about it. But it was very traditional. It was very, very much oriented around door knocking, open houses, outreach, keeping in flow with people, mailers, farming, and those strategies have always worked, and they still work.
Right.
That's the funny thing is, our listeners might be thinking, "Oh, he's about to say, yeah, that stuff doesn't work anymore, or it's dated, and you should think about working with leads." Not true at all. Those strategies, those tactics have made many thousands of very successful real estate agents, many of which I know. And I guess I would humbly put myself in that corner of saying, yeah, that's where I started too, because the other ones didn't even exist.
Right. So how far were you into your career when it switched for you, where you went from primarily working Sphere to then, another stranger? You were working with some strangers before then, but when did you start working online leads for the first time?
Yep. That was in 2010. Was when the corner kind of got turned. So I got started in real estate technically 2004. Got licensed, I believe it was end of 2006. So it was 3 years-ish, working with a lot of open house type of business, which ironically is also strangers.
Right.
Right. But you would convert those into relationships and move on from there. But the way that leads work today didn't exist. It was unknown at the time. And so in 2010, I'll never forget, I got a call from a Zillow rep, which again, at that time, Zillow had launched and it was just putting a value on everyone's home. That's it. And so when they called, I had no concept of leads or being connected with anybody that might buy.
Yep.
And I ended up spending, I think it was about $50 a month. I thought it was a total scam. I thought, this is ridiculous. What am I doing? I'm kind of a pushover, to be honest, like when it comes to sales. So, and then that scaled from there in a pretty big way.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll come back to this at the end. But what's really interesting is as you're talking, it strikes me that, here you are 2023, and as you've scaled your business and gone from, producer to broker to, now having a significant business running, the method that you chose to scale was primarily through working with strangers.
Yes.
Working a lot of online leads.
Yep.
And so
100%.
Like you said before, I can see where there's a tendency for somebody who's in Thrive or somebody who's at a brokerage like Thrive that's working a lot of online leads to go, oh, that's the better way, and that's why we're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not necessarily true, even though that is how Thrive has scaled. So there's a little tease that, for at the end, we'll come back and we'll talk about, why you say, hey, even though this is the method I've chosen to really scale up Thrive significantly, it's not necessarily better.
No.
And we'll talk about why. So why don't we get into this? Because here we are looking at this slide here.
Yeah.
Why don't we get into the challenges first and talk about some of the challenges of working with strangers, and then we'll shift into some of the challenges with working with your Sphere.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, so working with strangers, there's 6 key challenges that I would say are very challenging and cause some friction when working with strangers. The first one is strangers in today's day and age. And again, just as a reminder for the listeners, we're talking about leads, but we're calling them strangers. But strangers in today's day and age are very inflexible, meaning we live in, some people call it the microwave society. I like to refer to it as the Amazon society, meaning if I can't have what I need like right now, then I'm moving on to something else. You think about Open Table, right? If I can't make a reservation within like 2 clicks and have it confirmed,
right?
Screw it. I'm going to the next restaurant. I don't have time for this.
It's all about convenience.
It's all about convenience.
Yep.
Well said. It's all about convenience. And so the online lead or online buyer, online seller, stranger, they have that mentality, no question about it. Whether we like it or not, it doesn't matter. That's the mentality. And the funny thing is we're all guilty of it.
Totally.
If I can't have, something delivered to my doorstep tonight and it's, 11:30, I'm going to be highly irritated. So whether it's food from Whole Foods or Target or whatever, we just live in that society of instant gratification, and that's an inflexibility that is unique, I think, to working with online leads. No question about it.
Totally. Well, and as you were talking about that, one of the words that popped into my head is transactional, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the focus is inflexibility and convenience because it's transaction. There's no relational component, and that's actually number 2 on your list is relational void.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Relational void is a big one. There is no relationship. Hard truth is that initially, leads, buyers, sellers, strangers don't care about you, nor should they. They shouldn't care. There's no relationship. There's no emotional bank built yet.
Yep.
There's no trust established. There's no history. They don't know your resume.
In fact, they don't want to care about you because you're a salesperson
100%.
who's trying to quote unquote sell them something.
Yep. You're just a roadblock to seeing the undermount sink and the granite countertops.
They're actually trying not to form a relationship with you.
Yeah, exactly. And that the work then becomes, well, how do I change that? Of course, how do I win their confidence? How do I demonstrate value? How do I separate myself from other people? Which there's all kinds of ways to do that. But initially, there's a relational void. There's no question about it.
Mm-hmm. One other thing with that, because of that relational void, because they're actually trying to avoid the relationship, it makes rejection so much easier and low cost.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's why people keep their guard up.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about number 4.
Yeah. Process driven is another one. Process driven is just, it's extremely paint by numbers when it comes to working online leads. There's a lot of brokerages, there's a lot of agents that have it figured out. And the funny thing is, it's very scientific. It's learnable. It's literally just step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. I hate to say it, but you can kind of put your head on a shelf, not even think about it, and just execute. Right. But that is devoid somewhat of the creative side, the relational side. And I think a lot of agents like that side. And they want it initially right away. And if that's the case, definitely better off working with Sphere, referrals, and more of that relational business.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
Another one is shelf life too. We've definitely witnessed this at Thrive. No question about it. There's a shelf life working online leads. And the reason why, or strangers, the reason why is that to do it effectively, it's kind of like being an on-call cardiologist all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
And at Thrive, we try to soften that a little bit by having you work online leads for a week and then take a week off and then go back on the next week. And
that's right.
That way it's not so exhausting. But at the end of the day, it's super demanding because, again, it's a convenience-driven model where, hey, I need to see this house at 2:00 on Saturday. Oh, shoot. I'm double booked. I already have a showing at 2:00. I'm running an open house. I'm skiing. I'm sick. I'm taking a vacation with my spouse, whatever the case may be. And in their minds, they're like, oh, that's fine. I'll just find someone else to do it.
Right.
So if you're not on it right away and all the time, then that becomes challenging. And so that has a shelf life. That's exhausting. Let's be honest. It's not something that I don't think anybody wants to do for years and years and years and years.
Yeah.
So roughly in our world, I think the shelf life is around 24 months, something like that, where you can really sustain that. Now, are there exceptions to that rule? 1,000%. Yes. There's people in our company that I can think of names right now that would work with strangers for the next 2 decades and be totally fine with it. They love it, But by and large, if you're building a career, if you're building a business as a broker, you should expect that there's going to be a shelf life for your agents.
How long do you think that shelf life is on average?
For us, like I said, I think it's about 24 months.
There you go.
Roughly.
Yep.
Give or take 6 months, something like that. I think a lot of times right around the 18-month mark, depending on personality, depending on performance, depending on how much traction and how quickly an agent can scale with working with strangers. But yeah, I think all in all, roughly 18, 24 months, somewhere around there, people start desiring a little bit more of a predictable, durable, sustainable business beyond working with strangers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and if somebody is listening to this and they're like, dude, that's where I am, and they're feeling that exhaustion of the urgency, the volume of work they're doing, like how hard it is when your pipeline is full to just turn it off sometimes. And my word of advice or my encouragement to that person would be, and I know yours would be the same as well, is, hey, it's just a season.
Yes.
Right? It's just a season. In fact, it's probably the most important season of your business because you're laying the bedrock foundation for everything else you're going to build in years to come.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think when you can embrace that and realize it's not going to be this way forever, it makes it easier to embrace that, tolerate it, have a lot of joy around, hey, I'm doing this for my future, but it's not always going to look this way.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that's the hard part.
That's kind of like that concept of you got to play the short game.
Yes.
But if you lose sight of the long game,
yep.
Then it doesn't land anymore.
Do you remember this term, mental mushrooming?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%.
Where you start, you're having a bad day, bad moment, and you're just thinking like, it's been this way for the last few months. This sucks. It's going to be this way forever. And if it's this way forever, then, and your brain starts extrapolating
Yes.
that it's always going to be this way. And then what are the repercussions of that? And you can get to a pretty dark place pretty quickly.
You can. You start thinking, I'm not sure I want my life to look like this.
Right.
Like my entire life, like until I'm 90. You know?
Yep.
Yeah. It's so good. The last one I'll throw in too is just, it's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
It is expensive. There is no question about it. It is expensive. So you pay for it. There's no question about it. You pay for it at closing, after closing. You know, a lot of our lead sources right now that produce working with strangers, they have referral fees involved.
Yep.
Somewhere in the neighborhood of some 25 to up to 35. Actually, some of them are even 40%, right? That are a referral fee. And so I think the economics on a per transaction basis can be looked at like, wow, that is expensive. I'm not sure I want to do that. It's expensive. You do have to pay for it. And we'll get into the other side of working with your sphere and with people that you know as well, and the expenses there. But there's no question about it. It's expensive because not all, but many of those people, if you're working with the likes of a Realtor.com or a Zillow, or if you have an ISA and they're getting down sales funnel. And for the listeners that are thinking, what's a sales funnel? A sales funnel is simply, you can imagine the shape of a funnel. And at the very top of that funnel are people that are interested in maybe exploring buying and selling. They all start somewhere. If you think about your own journey, when you and your family started thinking about moving, there were some mental activities that started to happen for you, even though you probably didn't execute on buying or selling for 2, 3, 4 years, right?
Right. That
would be considered top of funnel mindset. And then mid funnel is, I'm pretty serious about it. I've got favorites. I've gone to some open houses. I've researched some neighborhoods. I've kind of, talked to some financing folks about what it might look like to move forward and buy, or figured out how much my home is worth so I could sell. Bottom of funnel is, oh, I'm definitely doing this. Mm-hmm. And I might even have like a deadline by which I need to do it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And so these types of lead sources that I'm talking about tend to, not always, but tend to produce people that are in mid to low funnel. And so there's a lot of work that doesn't have to be done on the top of the funnel to stay in touch, to stay in flow, to stay in contact, to stay visible, to stay available for years before they might get down to the middle or the low funnel.
Totally.
And so the concept kind of, and we'll get into it on the other side, is you pay for it either way.
100%.
You either pay for it with your calendar or you pay for it with your credit card, but you do pay for it.
Yep. No doubt. So. Good. I got a question I'm going to come back to, but let's get into the challenges of Sphere.
Yeah.
We'll go through these pretty quick.
Yeah. Sphere is interesting, by the way. If you think about Sphere, it's like, what is Sphere? Well, it's the circle of influence that you have relationally. That's how I would define Sphere.
Nice.
Right? You have certain level of influence or impact or connectivity with a limited amount of people. It's not everybody, you know. And if you really think about it, if you were to sit down on a Saturday morning, pour a cup of coffee, and take a pen and a piece of paper and write down who do I actually have relational influence or impact with? Both ways, them to you and you to them.
Not just people you know. People that actually trust you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep. And you look at that list and go, okay, for some people it's going to be 20, for others it would be 80. Maybe if you're local to your city and you were born there and you have high school friends and all that, it's 100. But it is limited.
Yes.
It's not ever expanding, nor is it, infinite.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I refer to as Sphere, just for the audience to understand that. So one of the challenges with Sphere is that it is highly outbound driven versus when you're working with strangers on a lead source basis. It's inbound. Right?
Yes.
Your phone dings, you get contact information. If you're on a great CRM like Follow Up Boss or Boomtown or Sierra Interactive or whatever, these are people that are inbound, meaning they already have an interest that you could potentially help with, and they are proactively reaching out in some form or fashion.
Yep.
Your Sphere is not going to do that. It's going to be outbound. You're going to have to reach out, and sometimes that looks like postcards. Sometimes that looks like phone calls, breaking bread, which is a fancy way of saying getting together for cocktails.
Social media posts,
absolutely. Hosting events, doing when someone is getting ready to buy, when you think about buyers getting ready to buy, doing a first-time home buyer class, it's outbound, it's outreach, it's moving from an inward model to an outward model. And that takes effort, it takes design, it takes intention, it takes consistency over a long period of time. And I think a lot of times when agents get into the business or they've been in the business, they either don't realize that if they're new, or if they've been in the business, it's just easy to forget.
Yeah.
It's easy to wander away from that.
Yep. And we could go a lot deeper on this, but your second point is it's done by you rather than somebody else. And I think the mindset and the skill set that it takes to prospect for your own leads, even if it is from your sphere, even if it is from people that the work of prospecting is very different than the work of like real estate sales.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a totally different category.
100%. And so back to your point, the amount of time, which, if we're skipping ahead, number 6, the amount of time and energy and sometimes even money that it takes for you to prospect effectively and actually have a really robust, full pipeline is enormous.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep. It's doable. It's absolutely doable. And it's been done for hundreds of years. Right?
And it will be done for hundreds more.
It'll be done for hundreds more. And I love it. It's awesome. But I think the challenge, because we're talking about challenges here, the challenge is the mindset of someone who is either new or existing is, well, I'm not even really sure if, spending $1,200 a month on postcards is going to work. Yep. Well, guess what? No one's sure. Right. It might not. Yep. Welcome to being an entrepreneur. Welcome to being, a career-driven person. Welcome to building a business. It might not. It's a bet. And here's the other thing too is when you think about outbound or outreach, it's not just, well, I have everybody on my sphere or in my neighborhood on a postcard. I have everyone on HomeBot. If you haven't heard of HomeBot, check it out. I have everyone on, whatever the system is. That's what we call passive activity.
Yes.
Like you set it up, you pay for it, and it just kind of runs. And I think a lot of agents sit back and go, yeah, I'm doing sphere-based work.
Yes.
And I think you and I would go, no, you're not. You're paying bills so that crap can go out to the people in your database and sphere. Right. Versus, I have everyone on that, and I've segmented my database, and I'm really targeting listings, and so I'm focused in on, out of 60 people I know, 10 of them are potential sellers for whatever reason. There's 8 reasons people buy and sell. We can get into that on a different podcast. Yep. But I've segmented it, and now I'm literally calling all 10 of those people to ask, hey, did you get my market update? Could we get together for coffee? Even if we don't work together, I'd love to still walk you through it. And it's that kind of outbound, specific activity that takes time, it takes money, it takes energy, it takes humility, it takes money. I think I already said that, but it's worth reiterating. Yep. So you definitely pay for it. The idea of, well, everyone's set up and I've got all the tools that every other agent in Denver has or in your MSA, and therefore I just kind of sit back and wait for the phone to ring. Good luck with that.
Right.
It's not going to work.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Talk about these next couple. We can hit these quick.
Yeah, we'll burn through these. Infrequent is one of them. Infrequent. That is something that I think, without naming, goes underserved. Infrequent being, you could have 50, 60, 70 people in your database. You think about it, let's say 10 of them actually transacted in a year. 10%.
10%,
yeah. Of your 50, 60, 70 or whatever. That'd probably be a decent proxy for what you could expect that year.
Yep.
7 transactions. If you have 70 people that are in your sphere like we defined in the beginning.
Yes.
Which is, these are the people that I have impact and influence on.
Yep.
And they have impact and influence on me. So 70 would be a pretty big number. So 10% would be 7. And that's not bad. It's not bad. But you're not building a career.
No, and you're probably, the level of income on 7 transactions is probably not enough to really make significant headway on your better life or some of your far out goals and dreams.
100%. Like, you're probably paying the bills.
You're paying the bills.
Yeah.
But not a lot more than that.
You don't have discretionary income. You're not investing in real estate, which I believe all agents should. That's probably another podcast as well.
Yeah.
You're not really advancing and getting ahead at that point in time. And so that's a challenge. It's infrequent.
Yes, that causes a lot of stress.
It does.
But it's a different kind of stress from the urgency, on-call,
yes.
crazy nature of leads. This is the stress of like, I don't know when the next one's coming, and I feel somewhat helpless in my ability to control it or make it happen.
Well said.
And I've loved this phrase that ever since I met you, when you would talk about online leads, and we'll get into the benefits here in a second, you used this analogy of having a never-ending river of consistent, predictable, down funnel opportunities.
Yes.
Right. And that's the exact opposite when you're working with your sphere. It's not a river. It's a pond.
It's a pond. Yeah. Yeah. That imagery is so good. It's
and the fish may not be biting that day.
They might not be biting. And like you said, in many sales industries, you can kind of control at a certain level when someone buys or sells.
Yes.
Like I know your background's in insurance.
Yep.
And you can kind of have a more of an impact on whether or not someone buys this policy right now.
Most days you could go out and make something happen.
Yes, like you can have a certain control over that. And for the listeners, Rob and I both sold books in college, door to door, and so you had to influence over that. You could kind of convince someone to buy something.
Yep.
It's not the way it works in real estate. You're not going to convince someone to move their family and to sell a home and buy a home when it's not the right timing. They're going to look at you like you're an idiot. It's just not the way it works. And so that's an infrequent thing where you just have to kind of maintain visibility, maintain presence, maintain value over a long period of time. That takes a distinct amount of endurance.
Yep.
So
I'm gonna ask you a question. I want you to take the gloves off.
Okay.
I want you to be honest. And if you're listening to this and your feelings get hurt, don't worry. He was talking to somebody else, not you. So we go back to, you're going to pay for it one way or the other. And one of the things that we hear a lot is when somebody has been working online leads for a period of time, it starts to breed this dissatisfaction of, look how much I made on this. It's not very much, right?
Yeah.
I don't like the economics of this because my paycheck is a lot smaller versus if I'm doing sphere leads, if I'm working an open house, if I get a referral, whatever, if I farmed a neighborhood and I get a deal,
right.
Oftentimes I'm making twice as much or more than what I'm netting on an online lead. And so it's so hard sometimes to deal with the pain of the economics when you're working on leads. And there's this thought, and most people don't say it this way, but there's this thought like, I'd really like to do more advisor generated stuff because I make more money. It's more fun. The grass is greener over there. So what would you say to that?
You told me to take the gloves off. So I'll just say what I'm going to say and it'll land how it'll land. And then I'll unpack it.
Get your Kevlar on.
I think it's short-sighted, uninformed, and immature. Yeah.
Talk about that.
We just stop right here.
right.
So yeah, short-sighted, simply because, when you look at a per transaction basis, that's not thinking about the long game at all.
Yep.
So I'll throw Kevin Shellady, one of our partners in Thrive and just an amazing human being and great leader. When he got started, he worked exclusively, except for like one or two transactions, he worked exclusively strangers.
Yeah.
Worked online leads.
Yep.
And he did it for a good, I think it was about 3 to 4 years, something like that.
Yep.
Funny enough, he actually did a huge analysis. I think it was in year like 4 or 5. It's on a spreadsheet. This could be a good, value share for our listeners if anybody ever wanted to see it.
Right.
But it's literally an Excel spreadsheet that shows in year 4, I believe it was, all of his business all of a sudden became quote, quote, sphere based. But when he looked back on it, and by the way, this gentleman was closing 40, 50 transactions in a year, so obviously a top producer. When you look back on it and you look at the original lead source
Yes.
was what? Realtor.com, pay-per-click,
Zillow.
Fast Expert, Zillow, like all of these stranger-based, sources. And so in our economics at Thrive, if it's a company-generated lead, we do a 50% commission split. If it's advisor generated, it's more generous than that, 70-30, and then there's a way to even earn more. And so all of a sudden in year 4 for him, it flipped, not just his database, but also the economics. And so for 3 years, he built it very succinctly and very quickly through working with strangers. But all of a sudden, boom, in year 4, it was like off and running. And you get into the high 6-figure, 7-figure income, and at that point, you're not just paying the bills, right? You're in development, which he is. You're in investing. You're in discretionary income. You're in vacation homes. You're in rental properties. You're in all kinds of fun things.
Totally.
So that's what I mean by short-sighted. Uninformed is, I think it's super easy to look at just line item by line item and go, hey, this one's more profitable. However, on the sphere-based side of things, what we have to take out of that commission is the commission that you get is the cost that went into it.
Right.
Not just the hard cost, but the calendar cost as well.
Yes.
All of the brain power that it took to get there, all the risk that it took, the money that you spent that it didn't work until you find what did work, the videos that you create, all of the things that you do, that has to be taken out. That's what I mean by uninformed, is that a lot of agents just go, oh, I make, whatever, 20, 30, 40% more on this one, so I'll do that. Well, that's called revenue, guys.
Yeah.
That's not profit.
Nope.
It's revenue.
Yeah.
Right? And
that's not your paycheck. That's revenue for your business, and out of the revenue you pay yourself.
Yeah.
But you also have overhead.
100%.
Yeah.
And I hope that's an aha, and I know I'm kind of being snarky, but it's like you say, hey, run your business like a business, not like a hot dog stand.
That's exactly right.
So it's revenue that comes in, and then you got to back out all your cost, including your cost,
yes,
your time, your effort, your energy, all the things that went into it.
So let me ask you a really interesting question, because we talk about this fairly frequently.
Yeah.
If I could plan out my year, and if I could do 12 sphere deals, and make X amount of money, or I could do, let's say, 24 deals with strangers that I met through online leads.
Yep.
And I made the exact same amount of money. Okay. Which one would you pick?
Yeah. So it's a great question. And on face value, I would say, well, sphere is better, right? Because you're working with people that know you, you're working with people that trust you. It's more durable. In that environment, if they call you on a Saturday and say, hey, Dave, I want to see this house at 2:00, and I say, I'm actually booked, I'm skiing, I'm taking the day off, whatever. The answer is not, well, I'll just find someone else.
Yeah.
The answer is, oh, okay, yeah, no worries. Could you do Sunday? Could you do Monday?
Yep.
Right? Because there's relationship driven there. So on face value, it looks like...
So your quality of life is a lot better.
Quality of life's a lot better.
Yep.
It is. It's more predictable. You're in way more control of your calendar. You can say no and not feel bad about it. And the other person's going to understand that, hey, this person has a life and I know them, and we'll get it done one way or another. So on face value, sphere is better. However, this is what gets missed a lot with working with strangers in this context is, given that they both equal the same amount of money, in your example, 12 sphere-based and 24 strangers, at the end of the day, if we were to ask any amazing real estate icon, okay? Yep. If we were to ask a coach, Tom Ferry, Gary Keller, no matter what you might think or say, or if you ever worked at Keller Williams, Gary Keller's the granddaddy of modern day real estate. He wrote the book on it, literally. If you were to ask them, hey, at the end of a year, which one's better? To have 12 relationships of people that know you, love you, and trust you, or 24? Okay, the guys that I know, like John Sheplack and Dan Beer and Gary Keller, and all these people that we would all know and love and go, yeah, they're awesome, would probably just stand up and walk out and go, hey, I don't have time for this question. Like, it's a stupid question. Of course it's 24, right? Like, you can leverage 24 100% more than you can leverage 12. Yep. If you're expecting, let's say, 30% of your people to refer someone in a given year, whatever your goal is. Well, 30% of 24 is more than 30% of 12. Right. Like, we all know that. Yep. And so I think that's kind of what I was talking about earlier with uninformed, short-sighted. I said immature because we have to grow up. We have to really look at what it means when at the end of a year, in your example, to have 24 relationships versus 12. The person that has 24 relationships versus 12 has more leverage. They have more tentacles out into the market. They have more champions that are out talking about how awesome it was to work with that person, which then scales and produces even more. So there's this idea of leverage in real estate, and it's usually attached to listings. Listings are leverage, and that's true. But we would all agree that having 24 relationships is more leverage than having 12.
100%. 100%. So a couple closing thoughts, and then we'll pause, and part two we'll get into the benefits. But
yeah, love that.
One thing I wanted to comment on is better, right? I'm using air quotes. Better is so unbelievably subjective. Because on the one hand, I think really what it comes down to is what are somebody's priorities, or what are their goals? What are their ultimate goals? Because if somebody's ultimate goal is quality of life, or their goals are very short term, then I could see where it would make sense for somebody to go, if we're making the same amount of money, 12 is better. Right? But if your goals are, more geared towards long term, building a business, having economies of scale later on in your career, well then of course 24 is better. And so it doesn't mean one is good and one is bad. It's more of a question of the priorities of the person you're talking to.
Man, so well said. I think about that question, which is we'll get into, like you said, on the next podcast of what's the benefit of working with strangers. We talked about the challenges, and what's the benefit of working with Sphere, because we talked about the challenges. But the question comes up, and I think all the listeners are going, okay, but tell me which one's better.
Yes.
Here's the answer. Everybody ready? Yes. Okay. They're both better. They're both better. And like Rob just said, it kind of depends on what do you want, and are you coming into it fully informed, and you can talk strategically and educatedly about, I get the challenges of working with strangers, I get the challenges of working with Sphere, and on the next podcast, the benefits of working with both, and I've fully informed with eyes wide open, chosen my path, and I'm 100,000% committed over a long period of time. When I say long period of time, I mean half a decade. If you're in real estate for less than half a decade, don't bother. If you're in real estate for over half a decade, then you're actually building something, and it makes sense to pick a path and go for it. I'll leave everybody with this too, though. It turns out that it doesn't matter which one you pick in a sense, because you're gonna work both. Everyone loves to talk about referrals. That's Sphere. No, it's not.
Nope.
Those are strangers.
That's right.
You don't know those people. And I guarantee, even though they've been referred to you, they're looking you up online. They're checking you out. They're reviewing your reviews. They're looking at your production. They want to know, is this person just awesome because Rob said they were, or are they awesome to my standards? Right? They're still interviewing you. And so they're strangers. And then open houses, everyone's like, they go in the Sphere category. No, it's not. Those are strangers, right? And so you look at like all the Sphere-based strategies that people tend to talk about, and that I talked about at the beginning of this too, and you go, those are actually strangers. And so in this business, if we're not good at working with strangers and good at working with Sphere, we're shorting ourselves. And we're not going to get the traction that we want to get. And so, sneak peek at part 2 of this podcast is, which one's better? They both are.
I can't wait to get into it.
Let's do it. Thanks for listening, and onward and upward. We'll talk about the benefits of strangers and the benefits of Sphere on the next podcast. Tune in.